Here's an image I've edited together to show all 6 different types of security contract you can get. You've got recover valuables, asset protection, GAN termination, vehicle recovery, liquidize assets, and rescue operation. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say that asset protection you should probably avoid. It's not so much that it's hard or not fun to do, but it takes quite a long time, and in that time you could get like multiple of the others done. Vehicle recovery it's a bit of a mixed bag. See, all of these have multiple versions of them, these missions. Vehicle recovery has 3 versions, and one of them is very long and slow and not really worth it. The other 2 can be done pretty quickly. I'm going to start looking at these one by one, starting with vehicle recovery now, I think. Now for this, if you get the long one, like I have here, then I'd recommend a helicopter to get you over there. Although really you're going to have a long drive back anyway, so still it makes it a little bit shorter. Other than that, I'd also really recommend a stone hatchet for all of them. That will it really helps with really all of these contracts. It's a big help.
Okay, now hear me out on this one. You know, rich people be having some of the crazy ass pets, right? I mean, I'm about the only dude I know with a Vinewood address who only got a fucking dog. Well, my neighbor, this motherfucker in the music business, man, he owned a fucking monkey. And the little guy just got stolen by Merriweather. I swear, homie, I know it sound crazy, but if you anything like me, you don't fuck around when it comes to the animal. You gotta get over to Humane Labs and save this little furball before he ends up with 3 tails or some shit.
Alright, now Humane Labs is a very long way away. That's why I call this the long version of this mission. And you can see why I'd recommend a helicopter for this. It can be any really, it doesn't need to be armed, because all you're using it for is just to get to the location, strictly that. The other 2 versions of this mission, you don't really need a helicopter, they're pretty nearby. For this one, I mean again, you don't need it, but I'd recommend it. It's a very long drive there otherwise. And you will be making this drive back, unfortunately, and you won't be able to use a helicopter then, so it's just a long mission in general. So you'll land about here, and before you enter, I would usually use BST here, to be honest, as well as a stone hatchet. The stone hatchet, that will keep you almost invincible through most of it, but you still need to get your first hit off to start that. Before you do that, you're going to be vulnerable, and that's where the BST helps. Now you can't get your first hit on those scientists, unfortunately. For whatever reason they can't be killed. So I like to get it on the man I just killed there with on the right. He typically has a pistol, so he won't be a problem. One of them has a shotgun there, so again, they can kill you pretty quickly. You're gonna see how the stone hatchet comes in use, honestly. If you don't have it, I would definitely get a hold of that. It really is a lifesaver for these missions. Just keep going up the hallway, killing all of these people as you go along. Now you're going to be told to find the vehicle, but you'll come across that right now, really. You've just seen it. Don't get into it yet though. Kill all these people first. And then there's also something else you should do before you kill them. And I'm just gonna make a little side note again that you would be absolutely shredded here if you went out in the open like this without a stone hatchet. You've also got to make sure you get these people quite quickly. You see that little yellow bar in the corner? If that empties, then your ability's gone. And then you're really vulnerable. Alright, so we've killed them all. We want to open the doors before we get in that though. See, the moment you get in that, more enemies are going to spawn. And then it's going to tell you anyway, hey, open the garage doors. So rather than do that, we're going to open the garage doors first. And this way, the extra enemies, they don't appear. You're not completely out of the woods yet though, so I would use some snacks, fill up your health. You've got an infinite supply of them for free at your agency, so don't be afraid to use them. See, cars are going to come after you when you head out. If you let them chase you, they will just shoot you out easily. I like to turn off to the side a bit like that and use the van as cover, then take them out on foot. Might seem like a waste of time, but I guarantee they'll just shred you if you drive off. The van's just too slow and they just pull up alongside you, and they're very accurate as well. It's just better to do it like this. You typically have about 6 cars. They usually come in waves of 2. So you'll get 2. Then if you need to use snacks, use them. Once you get back in a van, you'll get another 2. Kill them. Get back in a van. Then your last 2. Sometimes they come one by one, like in this clip. You could also use an explosive shotgun if you have one. I do have one, and it would make dealing with these people much faster. Although I wanted to be quite inclusive to like young noobs and people without much stuff, so I wanted to find a way of doing it without using too much of expensive stuff. So if you just use a lot of snacks, use the van as cover like this, you can get by without using really explosives or anything like that. Anyway, you've cleared out all the enemies now, so you're pretty much free to head back, but it's a long drive. That's why I call this the long version of this mission. You really don't want to get this one, to be honest. It's not so much that it's a bad mission or anything like that. It's just very long, and in that time you could get probably 2 of the others done and make a lot more money. Well, this has been the long version of this mission. Next up I'm going to show a much faster version of the same kind of contract type that you can get. Again, these are both vehicle recovery, but there's different versions of them. This one is in a much better location than Humane Labs, which is all the way up into the north of the map. So for this, you don't even really need a helicopter. If you got one, sure, use it. But you can get here by car, you know, pretty quickly as well. Again though, you're still going to want to use a stone hatchet for this, and I would use BST as well. They're very powerful, these enemies, they're very accurate, they can shoot very quickly as well. Some of them have shotguns. Now before you get your first strike, you're vulnerable. So try get one of these ones with his back turned. Now that you've got your first strike, you've got the rampage ability activated, and with that, then you're not going to die basically. You do have to keep killing them though to keep it going. See that yellow bar in the corner? Again, if that runs out, then you're kind of in trouble. If it looks like it's going to run out, and you know you're not going to make it to the next enemy, then I would say get behind cover and just switch to a rifle. You don't want to get caught out in the middle of the open without the ability active, or you will get shredded so fast. Now again, it's telling you to get in the car, but before you do that, open the doors first. This way you avoid an extra wave of enemies, and it's really just, you know, it makes it easier. The great thing about this version of the mission is that you don't need to stop and take out all the enemies. Your car is much faster than that post-op van, and even with me being a pretty bad driver, to be honest, I can get away from them really easily. So whereas before you'd have to stop and wait to take them out, otherwise it'd be just too much of a pain in the ass to deal with, here you really can just drive off. That makes this so much nicer to get than the monkey version. You can see I'm practically here already. It's really just down the street. Next up, I'll show a version that is the last version of this type, and it's kind of somewhere in between, I'd say. It's nearby, you will see. Here, for this one you have to head over to this hangar in the Los Santos airport. It's a little bit further away than the garage in Davis, but it's still much better than having to go all the way to Humane Labs, practically at the top of a map, then drive all the way back down in a post van. The environment is a bit different, but it's the same kind of thing you're doing here. I like to start with this woman. She does have a shotgun, but she's quite slow to react. Now you started the rampage. Again, just kill all these people. They do have a tendency to kind of back up, and they're quite far away from each other, so sometimes your ability can run out, which is problematic. If it does, again, just get into cover and switch to a rifle. The vehicle you're looking for will be in the back of a plane, but again, you want to open the doors first, or you'll get an extra wave of enemies that you don't need to deal with. Now this time, it's a bike, and it's typically pretty fast, although the enemies that chase you are quick as well. And you're very exposed on a bike. So for this one, I personally, I would always just take them out on foot before driving off. If you do drive off, they'll nearly always just kill you, and then you'll spawn outside the airport, have to go all the way back, probably get killed again. It's just better to deal with them on foot right away. It's quite a wide open space as well, which you can see I've worked around that by just positioning this big old truck here for cover. You don't need to do this, but it helps. It also doesn't have to be a giant big truck, just any kind of car or slightly large vehicle. If it gives you something to sit behind, then you're not wide out in the open. The premise here is pretty similar to the post-op monkey mission though. Just get back on the bike to get them to appear, kill them, get back on, and of course use snacks if you need them. You almost definitely will. They're very accurate, they're very nasty, these enemies. Now I should be free to just drive off. I've dealt with all of them. By now you know how this goes. I just go back to the agency. So I'm going to move on to the next type of security contract, which is Liquidize Assets. For these ones, you will need to lose the cops at the end, which a flying vehicle could be quite helpful for. But other than that, they're not really that far away, so you can get by with a car on this. I typically use a Deluxo, but you could use a fast car on these.
Hey, you know what? If there's one thing I learned about hanging around these NBA type motherfuckers, it's that once they start going legit and start paying taxes, they get real pissy with anyone that don't. So check this out. Our client today runs Charenko Vodka. Their sales been taking a fucking hit, and it's because their consumer base moved to some black market moonshine the Lost MCs have been pumping out. They want us to make that shit go away. Blow up the equipment and all that shit. I just sent over the coordinates.
You're going to need to tell someone on this, so because of that, I wouldn't get too hung up on needing a helicopter or the fastest thing possible, because you're really limited anyway. You've got to follow them. You can speed them up a little bit though. I like to just sort of shoot next to them and spook them. It's a bit risky, especially when they're on a bike like this, because their driving gets a little off and they can crash. Still, I haven't really had any major problems like this so far. So yeah, I would shoot a bit to spook them. This hurries them along a bit. Again though, a buzzard, you'd really still be limited by how quickly he's going, so you don't really need anything like that. Again, I would use BST before entering, and I'll use a stone hatchet as usual. Really is just the easiest way to deal with these enemies. The BST will give you a little extra protection while you're vulnerable before you've got your first strike. Then once you've killed someone with a hatchet, you're good to go. Just clear out all the rest of these enemies now. Now you have to shoot these crates. You don't need to use explosives. There's only one version of this mission where you do, and I'll cover that a little after this is over with. For the majority of them though, just shoot these. Now you have to plant some satchel charges. I like to start with the one furthest away from the door. That's because when you put the last one down, that's what starts the timer off. So if you do it right next to the door, then you're closer to it and you've got more time. This part really shouldn't be a problem though, you'll get out fine either way. Now you have to lose the cops, and I guess here really is where having some kind of flying vehicle comes in handy. Again, you could use a buzzard for this. It would be a bit overkill when it comes to tailing a person, but losing the cops, it would help. I find the deluxe though, it's pretty good at losing them in the air. Often the cop helicopters, they don't really seem to know where to look. So yeah, this works very well for me. I typically just head back home, avoid them on the way, and by the time I'm there, I've nearly lost them. If you don't have something that could fly, I would pick a fast car. And there is another trick to losing them that I'll get into soon. You see that Avenger on the map? If I were to land this Deluxo and go inside that, it would get the cops off me instantly. So that's quite useful if you don't have something that can fly and, you know, really you lose the cops easily. Once you've lost them, this mission is over with. Now I'm going to show a few of the other versions. They're mostly similar, but some have a couple of little differences. In this one, you're following some Ken Pai criminals. I'm assuming they're some kind of Koreans. More importantly though, they're in a helicopter. You can do this on foot, but once you get to where they're going, they're going to land on a rooftop. Again though, you can do it because they will just say, hey, there's a helicopter nearby. But it is quicker to do this one with a flying vehicle. Very much doable on foot, but yeah. Other than that, it all goes mostly similar. Now when he's near the building that he's going to land at, keep an eye on the map and look out for a yellow blip. Once the yellow blip appears, you can just shoot the helicopter down. And you can't really do that on the other versions of this mission because a yellow blip doesn't appear and you don't know when it's safe. Here though, you can do that and it just keeps him out of the way, gives you somewhere to land. From here it's all pretty similar though. You get your BST, your stone hatchet. You definitely need the BST on this one because these enemies, there's one with a shotgun really near the entrance, so he will just take your health really fast. You see, even with the BST, I got about half of my health was gone. If I didn't have it, I would have got killed right away. But from here, it's really all the same. Kill them, go away, lose the cops. All the same. So for now, I'm going to move on to a little bit of another version. In this version, we followed some Armenian gangsters to a warehouse over here. Now what's different in this version is that you will need explosives to destroy the goods you're going after. Now, I like to climb up on those stacks, those wooden things, and then climb up on the camera to get up on this roof. The reason for that is that these have a pretty big blast radius, and they also tend to set off the cars that surround them. They're really set up in kind of troll positions where you... It looks like overkill what I'm doing, but honestly, you will get caught in the blast a lot if you do this on foot. See those cars blowing up there? That would definitely catch you out. I like to use the explosive shotgun for this. It's probably the cheapest way I've found so far, but any explosive should do. After that, it all goes on as normal. You plant the satchel charges, escape from the cops. Yeah. Other than these two things I've shown, all the versions, they really go in a very similar manner. So I'm gonna fast forward here. And the next type will be, after this I'm gonna be showing a next type of security contract, which is recover valuables. Before that though, I'm gonna quickly demonstrate the little trick of the Avenger to lose the cops that you can do. So you have it parked right outside my agency. All I have to do is press right on a D-pad to get in, and I've lost them. Just as easy as that. That's especially helpful if you don't have something that can fly, you know, you're just using a normal car. If you're using a broomstick, you could probably use a terabyte to do the same kind of thing. But you know how I am, I don't use broomsticks. Nothing against you if you do, but yeah, it's just, yeah. Anyway, now I'll move on to the next type of security contract, which is recover valuables. For these, I tend to use a Deluxo, but you could probably get by with a fast or armored car pretty easily. There's only 2 versions of this mission, and both of them have you travel somewhere pretty nearby in the city rather than up at the end of the map. There will be a bit of a chase at the end though, so you'll want something that can make a fast getaway.
Hey, look, so our client is the CEO of a fancy-ass perfume brand, Petition, whatever the fuck that is. Well, little Miss 1% just had a taste of the real world. Got herself mugged while she was smoking outside of whatever fucking restaurant they eat at this week. The MO sounds like the Lost MC, you know what I'm saying? They made off with all her jewelry, and get this, the necklace don't even belong to her. She had stolen it for one of her rich girlfriends, so she can't go to the fucking cops. That's where we come in. The Lost have been hanging out over in West Vinewood over in Tequila Lot. Hey, go pay him a visit and get that fucking jewelry back, alright?
Once you've got the jewelry from this place, enemies are gonna swarm around the entrances, so you want something that can get away fast. That's where I find the Deluxo is really helpful, because you can just take off immediately. I position it right there. You could also use something armored though, or just a really fast car. Again, they might bog you down by ramming into you. Again, I'd use a stone hatchet and some BST. Really, that goes for all of these missions. It's just a very good combo. Gonna look for the safe, but you'll come across it naturally, really, most of the time. Usually it's here. Since it's not, it's gonna be in a room at the bottom, which I'll get to. But for now, I'll just keep killing everyone, keep my rampage going, and then I'm safe, more or less. You'll also need the code to the safe, which can be in a few locations. It can be on that table there. It can be on the bar on my left, or it can be on that, near the stand there. Here's the other place the safe can be. If it's not here, it will be in the place where I first went. And just a quick note, these enemies would absolutely, they'd have killed me multiple times over by now if it wasn't for the hatchet. So definitely use that. This is one of the places the codes can be, but it's not there. Instead, it's next to the stage here on the table over to the right of me right now. The moment you take it, more enemies are going to spawn, so be wary of that. One of them will appear out of thin air behind this door. Be ready for him, just like that. Open up the safe. Once you take the necklace, enemies are going to drive outside and all gather up outside the entrances. So you're going to want to make sure your health is full of some snacks. And just have something that can make a quick getaway. You could probably get by just fine with a Mark II for this, although you are a lot more exposed to bullets, so if you're low on health, you could get shot off it quite easily. You could probably get by with a car as well, but they could ram into you, bog you down a bit. I'm gonna say you could probably quite easily get by with a car, just use something fast or armored and bulletproof. Now, there's only one other version of this mission, and it goes in a very similar way, but I'll demonstrate it anyway.
Back rooms. Short work for your charming ass, right?
This one is so nearby that I'm practically there before the phone call's even over. It's in a strip club here. Again, I like to position my car so I've got a nice quick getaway. It's going to go very similar to the last version of this mission. The enemies are going to swarm around the exits once you take the valuables. So make sure you've got something quick and that can get away without you getting shut up too much. Gonna do the same tactic here. Bull shark with a stone hatchet. I tend to kill this man here. The one ahead has a shotgun, so if you don't get him in time, he could have killed me quite easily. Things go a little bit wrong here. A lot of these stools and these little walls are getting away, get some bum animations, and I noticed that my yellow bar, I'm nearly out. I know I'm not going to make it, so I just switched to a machine gun here instead. That's important, really. If you know you're not going to make it, just head into cover. Like, you're not going to get the next strike in time, and you'll just be left out in the open. So again, try to keep it going, but when you know, you know, And at that point, yeah, it's time to play it safe. Make use of snacks. You've got an infinite free supply of them at your agency. Now here, I can't get a good vantage point on those enemies, so I decide to go through the other entrance where I might get a better look at them. This can work out. Someone with a shotgun there, gotta be careful about him. And you see here, I can see the others. So if you just can't get a proper look at them, try the other exit. And that's how you can kind of salvage it if things go wrong. You know, your hatchet runs out. The code will either be on this bar here, which it isn't. It can be in one of the stalls coming up on the left, which it isn't. And that leaves only one last place, which is on the railing here. The moment you take it, again, more enemies are going to spawn, so be ready for them.
You here to tell me something? You're dead!
And the safe is pretty much always in this room. It can be a little further up, or it can be right here. Either way, it's in this room. Once again, the moment you take it, enemies are going to come around to the exits. You can see he's blocking the way, so I decide to just take care of him. Now that I've got a clear path, I go back to take the watch. And again, the moment I take it, they all drive up to the entrances, so make a quick rush and try the quick getaway. It's a little bit cramped here, there's like a pole in the way and a few cars. But if you can get away fast like that, you're not going to get shut up. Again, you can see how a normal car might get bogged down there. But it's possible you can make a quick getaway. You don't have to go far as well. So that about covers that for this security contract type. Next up, I'm going to show another one, which is a rescue operation. For these, I would recommend a Deluxo. On some of them that have a longer journey, you might be better off with a Sparrow, or a Buzzard could do, although the slower cooldown in between missiles. It's not going to be a huge deal, but when you're doing these hundreds of times, even a little bit of time wasted, it will add up. I wouldn't really recommend a car though. You could get by, but it will be a lot slower. I skipped the call by accident trying to do a little runner dance, but I doubt anyone minds. Here I probably would have been better off using a helicopter, because it's one of the ones that's actually quite some distance away. But I go with the Deluxo just to show that it's still doable. Once you reach your destination, you should see a pretty big yellow circle on your map. The client's hidden somewhere there, bogged down by enemies. You've got to find them, and here's where homing missiles help a lot. Right away, you can see, I can see where they are immediately. All you have to do is quickly get rid of the enemies. I used to worry that you might kill the client with homing missiles, but in all the hundreds of times I've done this, I haven't had that happen, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just don't go spraying a Savage cannon everywhere or anything like that. Just send your missiles, get it done. You can quickly land, pick them up, quickly take off again before more enemies come. Now they can be quite nasty. I've even seen them send technicals with big guns on the back. So again, something that can fly is going to be helpful there. If you had to drive all the way and get bogged down by them ramming into you and shooting you, it could just go a lot slower. It's probably doable, but yeah, for this I'd recommend a Deluxo or a Sparrow. A Buzzard will do just fine as well, but the cooldown's a little slower. It's not much, but again, every little counts when you're gonna do these loads and loads and loads of times over. Now, when you're dropping the client off, don't drive into the yellow marker there. Instead, just drive close, get out, and then run into it. If you do it this way, your car will stay where it is right next to you. If you drive into the marker, then they move it way off to the side. So you would have to go all the way down this pathway. Run down the pavement here, around the corner, all the way over here, which is just, you know, it's about a solid minute of time wasted. There are other versions of this mission, but honestly they all go very similar, so I'm going to quickly move on to the next type of security contract, which is GAN Termination. This type of security contract can be one of the fastest, if not the fastest, and also pretty easy as well, but only if you have a helicopter. You're really going to need a helicopter for this. A Savage is perfect, followed closely by a Sparrow or really anything that can spam missiles. A Buzzard will do, but it will be quite a bit slower owing to not being able to spam the missiles so much.
Hey, look, be careful fucking with this next one. Man, we're about to get involved in a trade war. So Tanisha was at some party last week, and she met the wife of some major importer. Turns out he losing his fucking mind because the Triad's been undercutting him at every opportunity. Anyway, she asked Tanisha to ask me, and now I'm asking you. Let's get down to Elysian Island. Find out whichever dudes the Triads got running the show down there, and take their ass out.
So, you're going to head towards a big red circle area on the map. In this area, there's a whole bunch of enemies. Only 4 of them you really need to kill, though.
You at our nearest airfield. We trust you'll be happy,
in a helicopter, you can just spam missiles all over them. You'll take all those 4 out without, you know, you can wipe out all the rest of them as well along with them. Won't take long. How I like to do this, I just sort of circle around the area and just spam my missiles at them. I'll press the bumper buttons a little to switch between targets, try to get as many of them as I can. If you're lucky, you'll be able to do it just with missiles alone. Some of these missions, they get a bit tucked away, and that's where the cannon of the Savage really comes in handy, because that would nearly always flush them out. Every now and then they'll just be so tucked away that you have to eventually get out on foot, but don't do that before you've done everything else first. This mission type, you're often able to just get away with missiles. It can be like that for a lot of the others as well, although it doesn't always go that smoothly. If you can, just use the missiles, because you can stay really far back, and that way you won't get shot up. See, this helicopter might look tough, but it's damaged by bullets very easily. It's basically made of paper when it comes to guns. Sometimes these missions can be bugged. That's one of the big downsides. Sometimes one of the enemies you need, they just won't spawn, and then you can't finish it. It's very irritating. There's not a whole lot else to go over with that though, so now I'm going to cover the last type of security contract, which is asset protection. Now these ones, I honestly don't do very much. I've only done maybe 3 or 4 of them out of the hundreds of contracts that I've done. For vehicles, I guess some kind of helicopter to get over there. Really, no, I think a lot of them are quite close by, so I guess you could get by with a car. What's more important is when you get there, what you're gonna do.
Man, when is natural selection gonna take out these motherfucking bikers? We got a new client today, one of the state's biggest tobacco and booze importers. The Lost MC's been wrecking her shipments over at the post-op loading bay. And the cops ain't gonna do shit. And she's terrified that it's gonna keep happening again. I told her that it won't, cause you'll be there, right?
The moment you reach there, stuff is gonna kick off. So I don't go quite there yet. I just get close and return my vehicle to storage if I need to. Then I like to call in a tank. Now, a lot of other vehicles will do just fine as well. Some people have suggested weaponized tamper, the speedo with a gun on top. Both of those will probably do just fine. And honestly, there's probably loads of vehicles that will do well. Personally though, I always just use a tank. You're not going to get shot out of it. It's pretty much bulletproof, so it's very difficult to mess this up really. That said, you want to do this before you reach there. The moment you reach there, you're not really going to have time to set this all up. Once you reach it, there are about 10 crates, and you have to protect them. If any one of them gets destroyed, that's money lost. Now, these standard red blips, don't need to worry about them so much. It's see those fire blips on the map? Those are enemies carrying Molotovs, and they're the ones that can really destroy the crates. So get rid of them, and just let your allies focus on the other standard red blips. If you can easily destroy them, by all means, you know, it's not a big deal, but you can do it. If they're close to the crates, I would avoid shooting them because you could end up blowing them up. Really, the main thing here, though, is just to watch out for the Molotov carrying enemies. So the red fire blips on the map. See that one right in front of me? They're the ones that can really destroy the crates. So you take out them before they get near. And for the most part, you can just let your allies deal with these standard blips. This job typically lasts, well, it always lasts, as far as I've seen, 10 minutes. So you can see why I don't tend to do these. It's quite slow. I'm not even saying it's a bad mission or anything, but in that time you could probably get 2 of the other contract types done, and you'll make a lot more money. You'll have progressed your safe more, having that make more money a day. So yeah, I tend to avoid these. Still, if you are gonna do them, this is how I would do them. Now if you don't have a tank, I suppose you could get on the top of that roof maybe, or find some kind of vantage point. Again, there's various types of this mission, so some of them have other buildings you could get on top of. Some of them not so much. This is typically how I would do it anyway, but honestly, I wouldn't usually do these. I avoid these for the most part. Those are all 6 types of security contract, and ways of doing them without dying much, hopefully, and hopefully just, getting through them smoothly. Again, I would avoid asset protection. It's quite slow. And some of these, they have different requirements. In general, if you don't have a lot, I would probably go with recover valuables, liquidize assets, and vehicle recovery. But a lot of these don't need a massive amount. GAN termination just needs a helicopter, really, stuff like that. The biggest tip I could give you is to not overdo them. I overdid them. When I saw they had a bonus on them, I went from about, less than 50 of them done to nearly 200 in just a couple of days, which was ridiculous. And yeah, I was very, very burnt out. So much that I almost just decided to just cancel this video completely. That I figured I've gone through all of that. I may as well get something out of this other than a little bit of money in a safe. So yeah, don't overdo these. Don't do them all at once. Just do them slowly over time, I say. I hope you found this useful. If not, oh well. I'm going to leave some links to other videos of mine in a channel intro coming up. Maybe I'll see you in another one of them.